Okay, I'm
I
ready.
always leave it in the. Oh,
But see, now it's saying it's live.
We're live, everybody. We have, just been hyping ourselves up here behind the scenes. So get ready. Even all of us, I think, have had some coffee. Andy's halfway through tea. So, or
I
Ron?
had I had green matcha.
Ooh, oh my,
Mm.
you know what? We start
Fancy.
last week. We were also talking about matcha. It's like, really, matcha's really hitting its stride right now.
It's having a moment for sure.
It is having a moment. I needed just like straight espresso this morning. That was more my vibe. But
Abby,
it's
I
okay.
love your life. You live the elegance while being the sweetest. Like it's like I don't feel bad about myself for not having espresso when I talk to you, and like I envy your life, but I don't feel bad about the life I have. You know what I mean? Because you're just like you embody elegance, but in a sweet, supportive way, and I love that for you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And just for warning everyone, Ron loves to compliment me.
Oh
So,
right,
don't
okay,
think it's weird,
yeah.
I do pay him for this, but we'll have some fun with it.
Who would think it's weird? Would someone think it's weird? I compliment my peeps, and I'm Andy. I find you quite. I said, and I told Andy he's quite dapper today. He's becoming effervescent.
Have you guys ever seen the movie? It's kind of an indie, and not very many people saw it, but it's I think it's Jason Sudeikis. It's called The Clapper, and the guy is
No.
he's one of those people that's the in studio audience in Los Angeles. That's a
Yes.
professional staged person that's there to do applause. And it's just
Yes.
about
Oh my
like
God.
what your life is like being a guy that goes from studio to studio trying to make a living being a background person. But it's great to
I
be a paid hype man.
should I be a background person? I mean, is that what we're doing
I mean,
here? Is it?
Ron is more like Higgins on the Tonight Show. He's a full hype man.
I don't know. I feel like, Ron, you have got to be the center of attention for today's live stream, at least, because we're super excited to
At
chat
least.
with you about your business. But you also help women become the star of the show and own their boss ladiness and just be total badasses on the stage. I know that's not the bio that you wrote, which I will read that too, so people can actually know what you're up to. So if you have not met Ron yet, he is a public speaking coach and works with high achieving female entrepreneurs and executives that have been told they're too much, maybe not enough, to get on bigger stages with more clarity and confidence. So we are going to talk a little business today too. Maybe.
We'll talk. And I should say the people that are calling them those things are idiots. Like it's not that they're like right. You know what I mean? They're not right for saying
Yeah.
that. That's I want to say that.
I know. And I feel like too, what led you down this path to really want to specialize in working with women? Tell us a little bit about that.
That's a great question. I always found like as you know, Abby, I'm not the smoothest. So
I
it's
was going to
not
say, you are a ladies' man. So that's where this all probably began.
professionally I'm a ladies man. Personally, I don't know. Who knows? Remains we'll see. We'll see. I'm making strides. But with I always I started as a theater director in Chicago 20 something years ago. And I always found that like I I always felt more fulfilled selfishly working with women. It was just a better conversation. The actors I was working with would go deeper, and we were. It was always so fulfilling. Like we always came up with really good, solid, organic performances that were authentic, that were moving. Whereas dudes are just like, yeah, I know how to do it. I know what I'm doing. Just leave me alone. Just let me do it. I'm not stopping you, buddy. Just do it. When and then I started teaching college public speaking when I kind of was like, okay, I wanted to find a medium that was where I could work more on the writing, work on directing, work on performing. I wanted more freedom than I was getting in the theater, where I was just kind of interpreting someone else's work, and that led me into falling in love with public speaking, where I was like, oh, this is everything. Like you could do performance coaching, you can do writing coaching, all the stuff that I was into. And so I started teaching the first, like, I was like, well, I'll just start teaching public speaking, I guess. So I started teaching in colleges, and there too, like, again, not to sound creepy, but like the female students would always stay after. And again, I'm not, I mean, I'm not like the ridiculously good looking teacher. Okay. Like I know where I fit in this, but like the female students would stay after class. And ask
Ron,
me
you're
questions.
too hard on yourself. Let's just start there.
Okay. Thank you, Abby. You're sweet. Cause I used to do a bit about my matchmaker thinks I'm gross. Like years ago, I was like, when I first met Abby, I was like, I think she thinks I'm gross.
I made it in the comedy set though.
Yeah, you did in two shows. Yeah. I did 2 shows back to back in 2021. But when the female students would stay after and they would ask me questions about job interviews and about like just how to present themselves at work or when asking for a raise or things like that, you know. And I was like, there's something here. And when I started my businesses, I just found again that it was just easier to work with women. And then I remember one day I just had a conversation with my then wife, my ex-wife now. She said, she's like, you know, you could just work with women if you want. Like that's a niche. You should be really specific and just do that. And I was like, that's a really? I can stake the flag in there, put the flag in the ground like that. And I'm like, she's like, yeah. And right around that time, this is the end of the story. I met with a guy who was a prospect, or I thought was a prospect. And I was telling him, like I was listening to him, asking him questions about his business. And then I was like, oh, you know, here's how I think I could help you, man. I think I could help you. I'd do this with you. I'd do that with you. We could do this. And he was into it. He was like excited. And then like he went to like Mansplain City and I saw it in his eyes. And again, it was so funny because concurrently I'm having this other conversation about just working with women. And he's just like, okay, Ron, let me explain something to you. I'm word for word. Let me explain something to you. I'm different than your other clients. I bet you are, buddy. I bet you fucking are. You know, like give me. Sorry about the swearing, but like I just remember being so
allowed.
offended.
It's allowed.
It's allowed. Okay, great. I swear like a trucker, a Jewish trucker.
Is that different than a regular trucker?
Yeah, it's like really. We're going to Arkansas right now. Is this the best place for us to drive this truck? But with this guy, I was so offended. You know, I was like, how? Like, I'm not hurting you. I'm here to help. You know, and he was just like, you could see that he felt vulnerable and that he saw the value in the help, and then he had to like squash it. And that was the last dude that I ever like really prospected. I do work with guys sometimes. Like I have three male clients right now that are awesome at different stages. But the women thing I always found the most fulfilling.
Interesting.
Yep.
I feel like Andy, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like from your experience, I mean, Andy is always the only guy in the room at the hundreds of women's conferences and all of that stuff. You know, do you kind of get what Ron is saying, I would think?
Yeah, it really is a kind of a bummer. Last year, I took some time off and wrote a book and did some road tripping. And I was a photographer for 6 months. And photography is something I've always done, but it's never really been my job. It's just like I did for clients, whatever. And I had a friend that asked me if I would do video at her women's conferences. And then like 2 other women at that show asked me to do theirs and next and next and next. And all of a sudden, for the better part of 6-9 months, I was a women's conference workshop videographer. And I was in all of these rooms in like this amazing community of people supporting each other's businesses and mastermind groups and referrals. And there's just something inherent or maybe just recent trends about women wanting to have these professional development communities. And I was like, there's no way I would be allowed in here if I wasn't the camera guy. And I have so much to contribute. Like I have a lot of experience, sometimes more than the speakers in some of these scenarios. But by design, it's ladies for ladies. So I always get teased because I have so many female clients, especially in media development. And last week I saw this reel on Instagram from some luncheon, and there was like 3 different groups of my clients that were all in one picture. And they all found out that I was the common denominator. They're like, Andy knows every single woman in Denver. And I was like, well, I wish, just like Ron, in my personal life, I wish that was true.
But like, isn't it like, in all seriousness, like when you go into these rooms, like I work with an amazing women's organization called the Dames, and the support, like the care, the brilliance, like the creativity, the ability to think outside the box. Like my dad always told me about it. My dad always said, like, work with women. Like he actually, funny enough, like I remembered this after the fact. He always said, he goes, you know, he in his experience, he always hired female executives and just, he always said, work with women, because he goes, they're just so much more trustworthy. Again, his words, like trustworthy, supportive, brilliant, innovative, outside the box thinkers. I just find that to be so true. And so to your point, Andy, like it is, I make the joke about like guys are dumb, so I just work with women. But like it's not like, I mean, it's not, guys are not dumb, but like it's it's just such a supportive and creatively exhilarating and thrilling environment that like when you see it, especially in personal development, media development, like it's like it's hard to go back. Like it's just hard to go back and into when I go to like if I ever go to like a BNI event or something, I'm just like, wow, this is really transactional, which
Well,
is
and this
great.
is like, this is totally sidetracking when it talks to community events, but Abby and I run a networking business, and it really is something where there's something about many of the women's groups where there is this like safe place, check your shit at the door. You can talk about mental health, you can talk about your family, you can talk about side hustles, you can talk about stresses of failure. And there really aren't men's groups that are like that are based in empathy and honesty and support. It's like all of the guy groups that I've been exposed to are like, let's go up to the mountains and like cut down trees and act like bros and thump our chests. And it's like they all say they're battling toxic masculinity, but they're like just completely perpetuating toxic masculinity.
Right.
And it's like we can thump each other up and be cavemen in our business, but it's not the like, I get what you're going through behind the scenes. I have empathy for you. Tell me that you're worried about your marriage. Tell me that you're worried about your business. Tell me what's actually in your bank account. We don't have to show off to each other. And I think that's one of the things that I just love about women entrepreneurs in at least these groups that I've been exposed to and all the podcasts that I work with is they're just the first thing they ask is not what's on your balance sheet. It's what change are you making and how are you affecting other people? And not to rip on dudes. Like I know plenty of really nice guy entrepreneurs.
Abby, do you feel that? Like, do you like? Because I like we're just going back and forth about it, but like, do you feel the difference? Obviously, like when you're in a women's group versus when you're not. Like, what does it feel like on your end?
Yeah, it's really interesting too because as I'm thinking about this, in my romantic matchmaking business, I only work with men. So, it is really interesting. Maybe there's something with like working with the opposite sex that is just helpful in that regard. I do work with some women too, but like I've built my business where it's the guys who are coming to me for feedback and all of that. So they kind of have to be those empathetic, open-minded, growth-oriented types of guys that would create maybe a nice group of men. But I think too, like what we're trying to do with Founderist is all about, kind of getting to that deeper level of your business. Like, what are your values? What is the culture you're trying to create? Not like, oh, you have to have $1 million business to even talk to us. Because we want people to mentor one another. And I don't think there's anyone that is closed off to having someone who knows more than them telling them, hey, this is how I did it and this is how you can do it better. So, that's kind of our goal with this whole community too of the business matchmaking is to have that where it is more intentional and can feel like, oh, this is supportive. And maybe it even feels like it could be a group of women and even the men could feel comfortable being more in their feminine energy or being able to share something that could be a little vulnerable. So I hope that we're trying to create that space as we continue to grow.
That's what you and I were talking about yesterday too. That like what's so brilliant about Founderist, especially, is like with your ability to match and pair people like authentically and successfully based on their heart, based on their core values. Like to have a group like you guys are creating, and then to have the two of you kind of being the gap or like the bridge between who do I need to know and how do I know them? Like there's so many people out there. Like how do I pick that needle in the haystack? You guys do all that work for us. That's fucking awesome. I love that.
Well, we get really fortunate, not just in having one of each of us, but Abby and I, our dynamic and why this works is part of that proxy kind of thing. Because I go to these events and meet these women and they're like, oh, you're really cool. You should have Abby come to our next event. It's like, because she's a woman. Yeah. And then whenever Abby's on vacation, she has me do the intake calls for singles. And like, we get super emotional and I'm like really into it because you got this guy business partner who's like pretty sensitive and empathetic. And I do pretty well with the lady singles that are joining the matchmaking. And so it is nice that we've been able to test all these waters by design because we happen to be the personalities that are very, very copacetic, but also we have opposite gender.
Exactly. And like opposite skills kind of too. Like we both obviously have the people skills and the podcasting skills together, but the stuff that Andy's really good at in business, I'm not as good at, and vice versa. So, creating kind of those connections has been really fun because we're like, oh, we did it ourselves. We
It is a
created
little bit of a
business.
burn though when they're like, Andy, you've done so much free work for us. We'd love to offer Abby a membership.
Ah,
You're like, oh, okay.
Like, aw. Andy, you
Sweet.
just got to change your chromosomes, okay?
Sweet, thanks. I'm gonna have to do like the Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh my
Ugh.
God.
All of a sudden,
Okay,
there's
Ron,
just
we
this
want
old
to
English woman.
Ron, I want to bring it back to you because I
No,
think
I
we
love
could,
this.
fangirl over Foundress and all the cool things all day. But I'm kind of curious too with like this whole idea that a lot of women get told they're too much. I feel like I have heard that from a lot of people in my community. Like maybe you are doing too much, maybe your energy is too much. Where do you feel like that comes from, and how do you work with women who feel like, because that could be kind of discouraging for them?
Yeah, like so, and it's surprising though. So I work with women that are, typically six figures and up, whether in their business or in their salaries, and they've gotten to a point where they know that there's so much more they want to share with the world, whether it be public speaking, whether it be on video, whether it be in podcasts, whatever it is. They know that they have this like block though that's in their throat, and then typically they're like, yeah, like I was told I was too much, and but again, I'm blown away by how successful they are. So they've gotten to a place where they're hitting it. They're, and
Yeah.
they have the audience that's ready for it. But something about their personality, whether it was assertiveness or just an obscene amount of charm or like high energy like myself, or it's just at some point somebody was like, no, it's too much. That's too much for me. I can't hold space for you. And that's on the other person, right? So we examine all that.
Mhm.
And we address it like when we're creating content, like the best, like let's say we're doing a speech, right? Like we address it with respect. So like I was looking at the thing you guys wrote, like how am I a disruptor? I don't know that I'm a disruptor, but I do know that like I have no tolerance for being offensive. Now, if I rather just not work with someone, like if I'm not into them, if I can't connect, and I'm like, okay, like thank you, it was great meeting you, and I'll just end the call. I always say like, you know what, I have a 921, I have to go. Nobody has a 921, but like I'm like,
No.
yeah, I'm like I have a hard stop at 921. If I feel the person and if I feel that I can help bring their story out, then we address all that pain and I help them like be okay with their energy, with whatever it is that they feel like is too much or not enough. I like we positively, like through compliments and through like whoa, I love that actually, through focusing on what works as opposed to what doesn't work,
Mhm.
that liberates them and they like and they get so passionate and so excited and they're like, oh wait, you know what, let me tell you more. And like believe it or not, like I listen on calls. With you, Abby, I get excited. Maybe I talk too much, but
I know that you listen. I was just going to give an example of Ron and I were working yesterday on a presentation I'm giving for Galentine's Day. If you didn't know, that's February 13th. So get your gals together. And you gave me like some amazing feedback that my broadcasty voice doesn't have to always be my voice when I'm presenting or doing a speech. And I was actually able to get out of it. I'm probably back in it now
you're
because we're on a
not.
live stream. Oh,
Abby, you're
really? I
not.
was going to ask.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I was going to text you after this. No, Abby, you're like you're speaking directly to me. It's really nice. Like, and the other thing wasn't bad or wrong, but just
No.
when we get to know, it's like you're so lovely and you're so open. Yeah, no, I've been really enjoying watching this. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you're
So,
like, whoa, it worked.
Ron, what is the most common use case for people coming to you? Is it I'm preparing for a particular speech, or I just got more responsibility at my job and there's like a from not confident to confident, or do they just kind of come to you and ongoing coaching? How does it typically work?
Great question. So yeah, I mean, yes to all of the above. Typically, it is. I would say the bulk of what has been my business for the past few years is I have a keynote, I have a signature talk, or I want to get out there more and develop workshops, webinars, programs that really exemplify the transformational process that clients go through when they work with me. Right, like that's my client saying that. Of the past year, it's gotten really exciting in the other side, in the corporate side, where it's been just like you said, where it's like either the individual says, I just got promoted. I'm more in a project management or just a leadership position now where I have to lead teams, and I am having a hard time articulating my vision, or would like help refining my vision and being able to express, like, the exercise using my voice and just sharing that vision, and dealing with meetings where, you know, people are speaking up or like speaking over me or whatever it is, or me just being afraid to opt in. Even that's a big one. And then the other one is where training managers or department heads will reach out to me and be like, "Hey, we're doing this event in May. We'd like you to coach our MC and work with them on writing some jokes, writing some content, putting all of the important stuff together, and then also the performance. They need help with the performance. Or we have this person on our team, brilliant, like technically brilliant, but like when it comes to speaking, you know, they're terrified, they're scared, they're holding back." So it runs the gamut. I just love stories so much. I love performance so much that whenever they come to me with any of these things, again, if the person's cool, like if the person's a good person, and they're open, just like you said, Abby, if they're like reflective and open to develop and grow, I just go in and again, if they're good, then if they're good people, then I can compliment them and just get them to believe in themselves, and their confidence like goes through the roof.
And
And
how do
why
people
do
typically,
oh,
oh, sorry, Abby.
no,
How do
keep
people
going.
typically find you? I know a lot of them have heard of large programs like Toastmasters or something,
Mhm.
but as opposed to just Googling, I need a speaking coach, is it mostly referral in your business?
Yeah, like again, like I'm such a diva about who I work with, like that it's like I don't market. Like I go to networking events. I'm committed to networking events. I speak, but like we got to talk. Like I don't want to just like I'm not. Anytime someone's tried to just find me, it's like online. I don't know. I'm not a fan. But I'm a big fan for other people. Like my I have a power partner who's brilliant. Her name is Shannon Hernandez, and she has an amazing coaching program. And she does this thing where she does like, what is your content type? She has this program where and so like mine is live and in person. So that was like huge for me to realize that, where like other people are really good with blogging or really good with posting on social media and stuff. Like I believe in it. I just don't believe in it for me. You know, like it's just not.
Yeah.
So you have to meet me somehow. We have to talk. Let's see if there's a like if we can play together, if we can create together. Yeah, I don't just mass market. I'm
Yeah,
boutique.
reach out to Andy or I, and we'll vet you since
Yep.
we're matchmaking Ron over here. I always do the wrong way because my camera's weird.
Oh yeah, that's
So yeah, right. Isn't it weird?
yeah. Like I want to go. Yeah, but no, Abby.
I think another like important factor of all this too to talk about is a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. I think it's kind of a theme. Maybe some people admit it, some people don't. Do you notice any themes as to why that is when you're
Yeah,
working with people?
I just got it a few weeks ago. Or like almost 2 months ago actually. I started getting a fear of public speaking. Um, and
That is so shocking to me
isn't
because
that
you're so
funny?
amazing in front of a group.
You're so sweet. And like I perform, I do comedy, I sing,
Yeah.
and and I taught for many years. And this happens every like 10 years. This happens where something will happen. I'll up level, like I'll grow in my career, and then I just get like really insecure and anxious and all this stuff. And I'm great now. Like I presented last week, I'm feeling great. But like I say this as someone who just experienced it again, and it was at the root of it. And this transfers to people that are terrified. I'm able to relate more now because I had it recently,
Mhm.
where I started caring more about speaking. Speaking was just something I kind of did, like, but comedy was where my real focus was, and that's where I put my passion and everything. And so I was nervous before shows or whatever. And then eventually I was like, okay, like I got this. I think I know what I'm doing. I have a system. I have a process. In December, I gave a big presentation to a group like all over the country, executive assistants, on storytelling for mindset. And I cared so much about this topic. Like I've always wanted to do a speech about mindset because mindset for me was a huge game changer in my life, and just something that I just like. We teach our daughter like all about mindset, and laws of abundance and all this stuff. So it's like I was so pumped about this, but I was like panicking on the inside for the full 45 minutes, or no, sorry, 90 minutes. It was 90 minutes. I was like, and I think at the core of it is just caring. It's just like the fear comes when you care, and the fear comes potentially when, like, the biggest things I hear is, I don't want people staring at me, right? Because I hate all eyes on me. I hate when all the focus is on me, for fear of messing up, for fear of tripping up, for fear of being too much or not enough, or not being perfect, right? And so I think like what I experienced was when I felt that, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so passionate about this speech, about this content. What if it's stupid? What if it doesn't land? What if I can't engage the audience? What if I can't gauge if I'm sucking at this, right? Like, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. And I can't leave. I can't leave. It's on Zoom.
Right? Just leave room.
Right. You can, yeah. Like and then you get dizzy and then you're sweating and you're like, I can't leave the room right now. Oh my God, I can't leave the room. You know? And so which is like performing in person is easier because you can just be like, all right, I want you guys to work on something. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom real quick, right? Like with Zoom, you can't do that.
Right.
And so with like what I realized, like, or what I kind of resorted to, that there is a solution. There is a way to get through it and create better opportunities for yourself and create better experiences so that it doesn't like live in your body. And that is literally by just taking the pressure off of you and putting it on something else. So making it more interactive, asking questions, not making yourself the sage on the stage, right? Where you're like, I'm the end all be all, not coming with that energy, but saying, I'm going to present information in front of you, the audience. I'm going to present information in front of you, and we're going to create together. We're going to create something new and unique together with this presentation. We're going to unravel or unthread this together. You know, like to me, that was more exciting. And a lot of the work we do in public speaking is storytelling based. It's question based. It's we'll a lot of times we'll take an audience member and spotlight coach. Because a lot of the people I work with are in similar, like to Andy, right? Like personal development. They're coaches, they're consultants, service providers. So we put the pressure off of I am speaker, hear me roar, to like I'm a facilitator, and let's facilitate some learning and transformation here today. And I was able to get through that 90 minutes like fine, you know, where I was like, I mean, not fine, I was miserable on the inside, but like they didn't know.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's kind of, I'm sure for people listening too, and honestly for me as well, it's kind of interesting to hear that even you, as the person I look at, is like this amazing, like one of the best public speakers I know, and with so much confidence. It's nice to know that we all feel that way sometimes.
Well, you know, thank you for saying that. Like, I want to add to that too. Like, I get excited. Like, I made the realization the past month as well, where I'm like, why are you freaking out? Like when comedy, like that should be scarier, right? Everyone's like, oh, stand up. I can't do stand up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but stand up, I get to go on stage and I make fun of myself for 45 minutes. Right. Which is
what enjoy that?
No, I don't think I do anymore. I think it's unhealthy. But like my dad, when I was a kid and I was heavy as a kid and I was liked, but you know, I was liked, but I always felt like an outsider because I'm heavy and all these things. I was heavy. And my dad, I remember, said this, you know, the age old thing that like every comic wants to hear as a kid. He's like, and he's Israeli, so it felt like even like an insult. He's like, you should make fun of yourself before they do. And that's like that gives, you know, as a kid, as like, I know so many comedians that have that story where they're like, the dad's like, you're a piece of shit, so you should just call it out before they call you out on it.
That Are you allowed to laugh at that one?
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack. But that became my thing. And so like when it came time to go on stage, once I learned to write from my voice, it was easy. It was like, oh, how do I cut my, you know, like how do you cut yourself down? So you're doing the work for the audience before the audience gets a chance. So it's almost less scary, right? Because you're not there's no fear of being judged in a way, because you're judging yourself for them. You're going, let me tell you what a piece of shit I am, and let me tell you how to treat me. And they're laughing at you, right? I have a show February 18th, by the way, so I'm very excited about it. Like, because I'm doing so much healing work, and I'm like, how is that going to go? You know? Like,
well, Ron, don't you think that?
Oh, go
ahead. I was going to ask before we wrap into all of the events.
Could you two stop fighting?
I know you never
talk. She's in the middle
I usually
of
don't have a lot to say.
She's in the middle of talking, Andy. Come on. Sorry, Andy.
Don't you think that from the whole comedy aspect, it's not even so much about being nervous about what you're going to say or being nervous about performing in whatever speech you're giving, but it's that sometimes you're going to bomb. If you're going to be in this profession, whatever you're in, you're going to bomb and you have to know how to bounce back. And I had this happen to me this week. Abby and I just launched a new business and I committed to doing a press tour thing and we booked me on about 20 podcasts.
Wow.
And earlier this week, I just ate shit on one of them. And it's because it's a podcast about veteran business owners and it's like battlefield to boardroom or something.
Wow.
And they kept asking me about what my biggest mistakes have been or what challenges people face. And none of those compare to being in wartime situations or being away from your family. So I just kept like doubling down, almost apologizing on like telling my experiences or my clients, but then saying, oh, but it's not nearly as bad as what you guys have been through. And then I ended up touching on several veteran-owned businesses that I've worked with, but I just happened to have been around a lot of military people. I wasn't like trying to pander to them or anything, but I just felt like I just totally ate shit. And this guy was like, no, you did fine. You stuck the landing. Like I had you on because you're a business person, not because we only have veterans on this podcast. But I realized that I've spoken to so many different industries. The next day I was on one with all businesses in the UK and I just nailed that one. But somehow this guy was like also from Seattle, stationed at a base that I've gone to a ton of times. And just, I felt like I was just sucking the entire time. And, you know, you just got to bounce back and be like, well, those guys might've thought I was a little weird, but at least the next one won't.
I doubt you bombed it.
All of them want to join our matchmaking service because that's the perfect kind of thing. I want to find a clothing manufacturer that is veteran owned in Illinois. Why not hire a business matchmaker? Kaboom, mic drop.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like you'd bomb. I think a podcast too, like so much of that is the dynamic with the host, right? Like where if they're not if they're not necessarily like overtly expressive too, right? Where they're like, oh, I love that. You feel like you're bombing. I'm like that with my ex-wife. I'm like, does she hate me right now? She's just not a very expressive person. I'm like, I was just asking if I can bring you Chipotle because I know you're working late. Like, is that while I drop the kid off? Like, and she's like, okay. To your point though, Andy, like bombing is so fascinating to me. I'm obsessed with it because like, not that I remember the date, but May 14th, 2012. I did a show and I was coming up, like I was just a year or two into comedy, and comedy just kind of like, again, when I really started pursuing it, like it was, I wanted to be teaching and I couldn't teach full time. I was an adjunct professor, and what the kid, and I was learning to teach. And so the students, they kept saying, you're so funny. You're so funny. And I'm like, who's funny? Like, I'm trying to teach you outlining, you know? And they're like, yeah, no. That bit you do about your blah, 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 you know? And I was like, okay. So I was like, I should do comedy because that's all they care about. So I'm like, let's just do. And it took me a long time to figure out, but so I would have some like successes here and there, but nothing huge, nothing like, because when I was teaching, I was killing it because it was in contrast to the teaching. Like I was starting to teach a concept, and then I would tell a story that illustrated the point. In comedy, it's just you're just there to make them laugh, right? Well, so I did a comedy show May 14, 2012. And from the minute I remember, it's like I just got on the wrong foot. You know, I like got on the stage and I was hosting. It was my show. I was hosting and I was doing some sketch characters and some stand-up, and I had other performers come in and perform. From the minute I stepped on stage, I thought the audience hated me. And it was just me. I just hated me. Like it wasn't them, but it was I hated me. But I thought they hated me. And I couldn't get anything. And at one point I argued with an audience member. I've never done that, like prior or since. I was like, come on, just let me fuck. You know, like I dealt with a heckler. And I've dealt with hecklers, drunk hecklers, and I always just make them part of the show. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the show today, so I'm gonna include you. I never, this time I argued with someone who she was right. Like I was being a dick. And I gave up performing for adults for 6 months after that show. I was devastated. And I just did kid shows. I adapted my act to kids, so no swearing. And I would just do like these crazy characters, and I'd perform in daycares all over Chicago and stuff. And then a friend of mine asked me to perform one of my segments, one of my sets I would do this thing as a Neil Diamond. I pretended to be a Neil Diamond impersonator. So I was impersonating an impersonator. And I'd have jokes, and I'd sing some Neil Diamond songs like Cracklin' Rosie, get on board. And then I'd say some random jokes and shit. And I did it for a fundraiser for his theater company. And people were dying. And this woman in the front seat is crying, like sprawled out on her cabaret table, drinks everywhere. And I'm Jewish, so I'm worried about the hygiene of her, like on a cabaret table. She's like, ah, there's like schmutz like all over the table. And I'm afraid she's going to go home with a rash. But like, she was dying laughing, like at me doing this silly thing. And I'm like, see, fuck that. Like, there's no such thing as bombing. Like, I'm like,
Right.
because I did the exact same bit that I did 6 months earlier, exact same bit. Like, I was more confident. I was more like, I had less pressure in my mind. I wasn't stuck in my brain. I was like, well, this is not what I do anymore. I'm a kids performer. And I hated performing for kids. Don't get me wrong. But I was like,
Chicago daycare king.
I was the king of inner city daycares. Correct. They didn't have any other options. But yeah, so I saw him that night. I was like, and I never bombed again. I've had better nights than other nights, but I've never bombed to that extent because I realized that it's all of it. Bombing is in my head. You can control it. Like, I've done shows where it was like at midnight for 4 people, and I remember thinking, oh, just forget it. Let's cancel it. And I was like, no, this is in 2016. I was like, no, let's go and pretend there's 400 of them and let's rock them all. And let's make it more of a conversation. So I got up there, did my thing. And they had the best time, and I saw the video and they're laughing. Like, you hear the laughter. It's like 40 people.
Yeah.
It feels like, right? So it's all in our head. And I think we can control that in the moment. However, the minute we go to that place, sometimes it's hard to go back, right?
Yeah.
So the minute you start spiraling and you're like, I'm bombing, that could be the end of it. Where instead I go, okay, great. So fuck it. Now we're bombed. Let's just live in here now. We can do whatever we want. Freedom. Just like, right. Just like with the idea of like, okay, like now it's done. It's broken. So what do you want to do? Like, I don't care anymore. Let's talk about Superman.
All of you veteran business owners, I respect the shit out of you.
And that's what you did, right? You moved the conversation to something else. It wasn't you spoke, right? That's what it sounded like. You were talking about veteran business owners, veterans that you've worked with, people, military people that your experience. Like you were like, fuck it, let's just talk about something else.
It was
right?
super valuable for them. I just apologized a lot, I feel like.
I can't wait to listen to it and
I know,
see how
that-
you
You're
did
going
not
to love
bomb.
it. You're going to love the guy who hosts it too. He was really nice.
Ooh, okay, sweet.
So it really doesn't sound like you bombed, is the point.
Oh no, we super connected. It's just while we were talking, he asked me questions about stuff that I hadn't heard. We talked a lot about mental health too, and he talked about veteran suicide, and he was getting a little choked up, so he just dished me a question that was like not on the program, and he was like, "Just talk for a while so I can collect myself." And then I got uncomfortable and started saying weird business stuff, and it just we sort of went back and forth because his son's in the military, and he went from talking about Afghanistan to asking me about going to networking events. And it was just one of those weird things where the gravity of the thing was, we were talking about things that were so important. And then he kept diverting by saying, talk about something fluffy so we can roll it back around. And then I sounded like I wasn't respecting the subject matter because he wanted me to revert back to the peak instead of the valley.
So no disrespect to anyone involved. That doesn't sound fair to you. That doesn't sound like a fair experience to you. That's not what you signed up for. That's not what you showed up for.
Because we went to a vulnerable moment and then he wanted me to rescue it, but I'm not the one who should be bouncing it back. Yeah.
Like if Abby were to ask me trigonometry questions right now, like I fuck off. Like I have a 942. What, Abby?
I was like, what's the square root of? No, just kidding. We won't do that. I don't think any of us are math people.
Well, and he wants me to be like, yeah, Afghanistan sucked. But if you're ever going to a networking event,
Oh my
they have
god.
good cumin though. I gotta tell you, they got good cumin. There's
in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I have Afghani cumin. It's legal. Like it's awesome. It's from a barrel and burlap and barrel spice company.
Oh,
I was on a podcast actually with the owner a few years ago. Burlap, they have great cumin. It's heavenly. It's a different level.
Oh, okay.
This program
I gotta try
also
that.
respects the country of Afghanistan.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like I love that. Yeah.
Cumin is a great spice. Any Mexican food just takes it to the next level.
Middle Eastern too.
Middle Eastern too.
Food. Yeah. I have za'atar mix. I have cumin. I don't fuck around. I have shawarma mix. I make shawarma tofu.
Oh my God.
I'm just
Okay,
saying.
Ron, you can chef it up for us one day.
Dairy-free, gluten-free, baby.
I know that we go on forever, probably the three of us, but we usually actually keep this to 30 minutes. And where has the time gone? I have no idea. Ron, I want to make sure you have a chance to plug some of the things you're up to. I know you have your comedy show coming up. I know some people watching might want to connect with you about speaking opportunities and getting more confidence. So give us all of the shameless plugs of how people can reach out.
It's so shameless. If you are and again, if you're a dude, that's cool, great. Like if this resonates with you, like give me a jingle, let's talk. But specifically, if you are a female entrepreneur, executive, manager, someone who just wants to share, just has a vision for sharing her big stuff on a big stage, give me a jingle and like I always I like to audition for you and see like, can we play together? Can we create together? It's the best way to reach to me. My website is artfulspeaking.com. That's one L in there, artfulspeaking.com. I'm on, I don't post on Instagram or any of this thing, but I'm on it. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. LinkedIn, I'm on. I'm pretty committed to my LinkedIn. And then if you are in the Denver or the Boulder area, I should say, February 18th, I'm doing a comedy show at La Via Bella in Longmont. And there's Nancy Hicks, who is a phenomenal business owner here in Colorado as well. She's going to be emceeing. Stacy Peterson, who's a full-time speaker all over the country, a motivational speaker. She's really funny. She's going to be performing. And then my friend Donna Shannon, who runs a very successful company, a career service company where she helps people also executives find jobs. She's a comedian. She's going to be performing. And then I do my set where I do stand-up and I sing cover songs. It's a blend of, it's pure entertainment.
Love it.
That's February 18th, 7:30, La Via Bella Cafe in lovely downtown Longmont. And it is lovely. I'm a fan of Longmont.
And I will be there. So if you guys want to come see Ron and he gave me 2 free tickets. So
are
Andy,
you really coming?
If you want to fight Kevin for his ticket, we can go together.
If you watch the show and you let us know, I'll give you a discount.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Ron, do you want to play us out with some music at all? I don't know. The musical stylings of Ron Ben Joseph?
I busted out the guitar, but my throat's really scratchy, so it's going to be embarrassing, and I don't want to get into copyright issues.
We'll skip it. Yeah, you're right. We don't want legal coming after us for this one. So Next time we'll have the musical stylings of Ron Ben Joseph.
I'm so excited to sing for you, Abby, and Kevin. I'm excited to sing for. Do you think Kevin's going to like the show?
I think he will. Okay, if you can make him laugh and he walks away from enjoying it, then he will be your toughest audience member.
I made Andy laugh today.
You did.
And on the corporate side, all of the links to everything Ron just mentioned are below. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, please connect with him because that's his preferred platform. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash the subscribe button or whatever the kids say. And just connect with Ron on all the things.
Wait, the kid? Well, you're 25. What do you mean the kids say? Well, how old are you?
Ron, I'm 35.
Andy's skin just glows. It's not
I know.
fair.
Thank you. That alabaster. It's the Northwest.
Okay. Have a great Friday, everybody.
Thank you, guys.